Of all the states and cities in the world, why did the revelators pick our town? The Indians called the muddy village Chicago, smelly onion. 145 years ago, Abraham Lincoln was nominated for president in Chicago. But after the Great Chicago Fire of 1871, the city became a melting pot of radicalism. Chicago was notorious for saloons, dancing halls, gambling, and brothels. It was the hog butcher to the world, and the city of big shoulders. It spawned labor riots and corruption at City Hall. A revelation in Chicago? What were they thinking? It wasn't all bad. Chicago was on the edge of a vast prairie, the rail hub of America. It was famous for Hull House, the inspiration for worldwide social reforms. The city was a mecca for architecture, skyscrapers, and the early movie business. Chicago was the site of the 1893 Parliament of the World's Religions. Could any good thing come out of Chicago? Did the revelators pick Chicago because of the location or because of the people? One family was the nucleus of the Human Contacts Commission, the group that worked with the superhuman beings who initiated the fifth epical revelation on our world, Urantia. Both groups communicated through the man who has become known as the Contact Personality. His identity was known only to the Contact Commissioners. Dr. William S. Sadler, the leader of the Contact Commission, was a man of such versatility it was difficult for him to decide upon just one career, psychiatry. His equally accomplished wife, Lena Sadler, was, like her husband, a physician, lecturer, and author. The two doctors met the Contact sometime between 1906 and 1911. They and Lena's sister, Anna Kellogg, and her husband, Wilfred, over the next 20 years, satisfied themselves that their invisible companions were who and what they claimed to be. Meanwhile, the revelators determined whether these individuals were willing and able to carry the revelatory mission to completion. Later additions to the Contact Commission were the Sadler's son, William Jr., and a 37-year-old woman who was not a blood relative, Emma L. Christensen, better known as Christie, who had exceptional organizational ability. While lecturing on the subject of Gestalt psychiatry in Junction City, Kansas in January 1923, Dr. Sadler wrote a letter to his 16-year-old son, Bill, back home in Chicago.
Say, let's start a Sunday forum at our house. I'll answer and direct discussion on philosophy, religion, ethics, and race betterment. We would keep open house and invite our friends and patients. Talk it over with Mother. Yours, Dad.
When he got home the next Sunday, Dr. Lena had invited a group to meet at 3 o'clock that afternoon. This was the beginning of the forum at 533 Diversey in Chicago. The doctor described the group.
This group became a cosmopolitan gathering consisting of professional men and women. Doctors, lawyers, dentists, ministers, teachers, together with individuals from all walks of life. Farmers, housewives, secretaries, office workers, and common laborers.
The forum replicated the population of Chicago, Anglo-European and white Christians. Today we would call this a focus group brought together to test drive the soon-to-arrive fifth epical revelation. Their task was to ask questions, to study the answers, to mull over the papers, and to ask more and more questions. The revelators had experimented with various techniques of getting the revelatory information across to the Human Contact Commissioners during the first 20 years. In 1925, they began to send the first 57 papers of the eventual 196 papers of the Urantia book. How this was accomplished was never disclosed. In the dark days of World War II, between 1939 and 1945, everyone's attention was focused upon the evils of fascism perpetrated by the enemies of freedom around the world. The Forum first anticipated the publication of the Urantia book in 1942. Then it was delayed until the end of the war. But the last days of World War II, in August 1945, also ushered in the atomic age. Ironically, just a few miles south of 533 Diversey, scientists of the Manhattan Project tested the first nuclear reactor under the stands of Stagg Field at the University of Chicago. The unexpected spread of communism into Eastern Europe and Soviet designs of world domination caused the revelators to suspend publication plans until the threat to America and Western Europe diminished. The West was awakened to the dangers of world communism, and its eventual downfall could be foreseen.
Meanwhile, the Forum looked ahead to the organizations that would oversee the spread of the Urantia book. Urantia Foundation was created in January 1950 by a declaration of trust. The early foundation was based at 333 North Michigan Avenue in Chicago and was directed by a board of trustees whose mission was to maintain integrity of the text and to manage its publication and translations. In January 1955, Urantia Foundation gave the go-ahead to publish the Urantia book. There were no human names on the physical book, not even the name of the printing company, R.R. Donnelly. On October 12, 1955, the book was delivered to 533 Diversey, to the contact commissioners, to the Forum, and to the world. Brotherhood Vice President Warren Kulicki described the day.
What an occasion that Wednesday night when Forumites, their eyes sparkling, could be seen leaving 533, their arms filled with books. Some were struggling with cartons of 10.
A printing fund was set up in 1938. Each contributor paid $5 for the first printing. Forum members rushed to buy extra copies at the post-publication price of $7.50. On November 1st, the price went up to $10. By the end of January 1956, over 1,800 books were sold. 1 year after publication, 2,250 books had been distributed. How would the world react to an alleged revelation? When the book was published, one man planned to buy up all of the leading newspapers to catch the reviews of the biggest event of the 20th century. In the 1930s, 40s, and early 50s, the Forum was held to secrecy. One could only discuss the papers with other members. During the war, the teenage son of one Forum couple suspected his parents were involved in the subversive Nazi Bund organization. Excited as they were to hold the book in their hands, still, among ex-Forum members, there was fear of the unknown. No one wanted to be accused of violating his or her pledge of secrecy. Most thought it safer to say absolutely nothing about either the Forum or the origin of the book. For many others, they simply did not talk about the book at all. A few threw caution to the winds and eagerly shared Urantia books with all their friends and associates. Initial efforts were greeted with a shrug of disinterest. A few pastors warned of the devil's handiwork. If one didn't go to church, then one must belong to some kind of cult. Here is Clyde Bedell's recital of efforts to give the book to friends.
When the Urantia book first came out, the first edition, those who would contribute to the setting of the type and the making printing plates were permitted to buy the book for $5 a copy because these plates and so forth were all paid for. Florence and I, with a little discussion among ourselves, decided we would buy $1,000 worth of Urantia books, which we did. And we gave out 200 books, like hotcakes, to friends that we thought would be delighted to receive this book, as we had been. And I would bet you money that 90% of them have not been read, at least not by the original owner. Oh, we made many mistakes. We made terrible mistakes.
Things moved swiftly after the order to publish came. At noon on Sunday, January 2nd, 1955, Urantia Brotherhood was formally launched at 533 Diversey Parkway in Chicago, Illinois. The 36 forum members chosen to become general counselors signed the Constitution. Marion Rowley, the Secretary General, described her feelings in a letter to Julia Fenderson in Los Angeles.
Believe me, it was the most thrilling thing. We were all very much impressed. Some were crying, and I was shaking like a leaf. We've waited so long, and it just seemed hardly possible. "50 gift books were mailed to a list compiled by Domestic Extension Committee to 30 prominent people in 20 libraries in the U.S. Except for a few returns, there was no response. The Foreign Extension Committee mailed 100 copies to libraries in the British Commonwealth. Again, no reaction. They went back to the drawing board and agreed that a personal relationship ought to exist before sending books to prospects. This was the origin of the person-to-person approach to introducing the book. Urantia societies were designed to be autonomous groups, smaller versions of Urantia Brotherhood in local regions. Bill Sadler predicted there would be no fewer than 100,000 Urantia societies 10 years after publication. First Urantia Society arose out of the Forum. 146 signed the roll book at 533 Diversey on Sunday, June 17, 1956. Soon a group of expatriates from Chicago requested a charter for the First Urantia Society of Los Angeles, nicknamed FUSLA. In short order, societies formed in Glenview, Illinois, and in Oklahoma City. A second group was started in Chicago, the Second Urantia Society. A sixth charter was requested by a group in Santa Monica, but never acted upon. In 1961, the Seventh Society was named, appropriately, Urantia of Chicago, after the seventh superuniverse.
Every year on August 21st at 8 p.m., the Forum gathered in the upper room at 533 to observe the anniversary of the birth of Jesus. The earliest celebration was Wednesday evening, August 21st, 1935. Today, Jesus' birthday celebrations continue in every setting imaginable, in living rooms, parks, boats, on mountaintops, in fine meeting rooms, simple cabins, and in prisons.
Urantia Brotherhood School really began back on April 3, 1939, when Forum members asked for an in-depth study group on Wednesday evenings. It was known as the 70 because just 70 Forum members signed up the first evening. The Urantia Brotherhood School, under the Committee on Education, or Education Committee, began in 1955. Coincidentally, 70 students registered for the school. They took very seriously the example of earlier revelators who trained teachers and leaders.
Forum member Caroline Brown sent the book to her friend Jacques Weiss of Paris. Mr. Weiss rendered the revelation into the French language and published it in 3 volumes in 1963. Urantia Foundation reprinted the translation in 1 volume in 1982.
The brotherhood easily can become a national brotherhood instead of an international brotherhood. If we in the brotherhood begin to rule internationally, then it is imperialism again. And that is not what the Urantia book teaches. The Urantia book says we serve each other.
Reader groups have sprung up in many countries and have formed the nucleus of many translation teams. Urantia Foundation has published the Finnish, Dutch, Russian, Korean, Spanish, Lithuanian, and Portuguese translations. The Italian and German will be released in the near future. Large gatherings, 500 to 1,000 readers, began to evolve in 1975. Known as general conferences and international conferences, they are held at colleges or resorts all over the U.S. and Canada. They serve to link new readers, stimulate new study groups, and foster opportunities for people to meet and make lifelong friends. Not to be outdone, local groups began hosting regional conferences. The first was at the Brentwood School in Los Angeles in 1973, quickly followed by Oklahoma's Lake Eufaula event. There have been hundreds of successful gatherings in the U.S. and Canada, Europe, and throughout South and Central America.
When all is said and done, it is not the Urantia book that ought to be our primary emphasis. As Bill Sadler pointed out years ago, our primary spiritual loyalty and dedication is to the Universal Father, and to Him alone. The book itself is not an end, but it is a most important means to an end. We can minister to our hungry brothers and sisters with or without the book. The book is designed to bring God closer to man and to bring man closer to God, and God the Universal Father is the only true end.